Absolutely. I mean, Ernie just started asking me questions because part of EO is like you don't just join. Like we don't just sort of let anybody in. You have to be aligned with the core values that David mentioned. You have to be somebody who's looking to grow their business, but also, it's not all about money. Like in EO, we talk about, you have to get the financial side right, but you also have to get the personal side right. You have to get the family side right, because if you don't have all of these three things in balance, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you might be miserable.
Hey everyone, welcome to Sounds of Health. This is the show where we meet incredible people, share inspiring stories, and valuable resources that help you boost your physical, emotional, and financial well-being. I'm your host, Dave MacNiven, and I'm excited for our two guests today, Stephen Williams and David Logan. They're here representing the Entrepreneurs Organization. They're actually business owners and entrepreneurs themselves, and I'm excited for you to hear their stories and also to learn all about EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. Excited to be here.
Thank you for having us, David.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to kind of learn a little bit more about both of you. I know our paths have been crossed here in EO, and I've gotten to learn a little bit about you. But for our audience sake, why don't we just start with telling us what your businesses are and what you do?
Sure. So I have a business called Fuel Snap. It's based here in Connecticut, and started the business about 9 years ago. And the impetus for the business was I have an old house in Connecticut that goes through a lot of heating oil. And I didn't know a lot about heating oil at the time, other than you needed it to keep your home heated in the winter. And so signed up with an oil company for what they call automatic delivery. Truck just comes to your house on a regular basis. And it just felt like it cost me an arm and a leg to keep that house warm. And I never really knew how much oil I was going through, how much I was paying for oil. It was just one of those things, you kind of brace for impact when you come home from work. Is there another delivery ticket in the mailbox?
I think we're all familiar with that for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I had this idea. I said, there's got to be a better way to manage my heating oil consumption. And so I had this idea it's called the Smart Oil Gauge. And it's basically a Wi-Fi sensor that goes on your home heating oil tank. Tells you on an app on your phone, not only how much oil you have in the tank, but how much oil you're using by the hour, by the day, by the week. It sends me an alert when I'm low. And then the best part is once I'm low, I can click a button in the app and I can see all my local oil providers, how much they're charging for oil, when they can be at my house. And I put in my credit card, I swipe my finger across the app, and then I've got oil coming.
That's amazing. I mean, to kind of see a challenge you're having on a personal level and then to create a solution for it, that's incredible. I think a lot of people can relate to that too.
Yeah, and it's a funny thing. It's entrepreneurship is always something that's been interesting to me, but I never had that idea. I didn't really know where to start, and all of a sudden it just came to me one night, and here we are 9 years later.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that too. But David, how about you? What are your companies? Because I know you have a couple of them, right?
So yes, and I have the entrepreneurial bug, as Steve has as well. It's always trying to find and fix problems and find solutions to make everybody else's life a little bit better. To that end, I'm of Polish descent, and as a result, my family kind of left everything they knew, their family, the culture, the religion, from Poland to come to the best country in the world, and not really for their benefit, but really for their kids. And so I felt obligated, and I felt like a need to be able to provide. And then I kind of started thinking about, well, what could be something that could honor that legacy for them, for the sacrifices that they'd made. And I thought the difference between Poland at the time, which was communistic, versus what the U.S. was as private enterprise, was that you get to create and do this entrepreneurial journey. So to that end, in 2015, my partner and I had started Emergence.com. It's like emergence, but it's emergence because you're emerging something. And the premise behind it is we provide entrepreneurs capital. So we work with high net worth, ultra high net worth, and family offices, and also pension funds and endowments and sovereign wealth funds for check sizes larger than 100 million to basically fund entrepreneurial journeys. And so all entrepreneurs require two types of capital: financial capital and human capital. So once you have your idea, as like Steve was alluding to, where you kind of resolving a problem, you bring in the financial capital, but then once you have that, you need to bring in the people. So then we ended up buying interest in a software development company. and that is somatosoft.com. And so we partnered with a group that helped us build out our original immersion site, and now we basically use both. And now we provide financial capital through emergence.com, human capital through somatosoft.com, and now Entrepreneurs Organization, where we're going to be providing we have been providing intellectual capital, so that entrepreneurs are armed with all the information that's required for them to get to the next level.
That's amazing. There's a lot of synergy between those three things. How incredible that is. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So tell us a bit about each of your backgrounds. So I love both of those stories, but how did you get to where you are today? Where were you guys from originally? What brought you to do what you're doing?
Did you want to start?
Sure. I guess I'd have to go back to the beginning.
Take us back, Steve.
So grew up in Ridgefield, Connecticut. And the significance of that is I was surrounded by some really bright classmates growing up. And all through sort of middle school, high school, there was a good math and science program that I was a part of. Went off to college and went to engineering school. I went to RPI, got a mechanical engineering degree. Came back, got a job in Danbury, Branson Ultrasonics, part of Emerson Electric. Eventually I had this idea for the company, and just by happenstance, about 2 months earlier, I had reconnected with one of those childhood friends who we literally go back to elementary school together. And he is, how do I describe Joe? He's basically like the smartest guy I know. And to put it this way, I'm an engineer technically, but he's like an engineer's engineer.
Okay.
He's the type of guy who, when I had the idea for the company, I said, hey, Joe, I need a sensor that goes in the oil tank, talks to Wi-Fi. I said, there's this one on the market right now. If we were to just modify it, we could make this work. And Joe kind of looked at me like, are you kidding? He's like, we'll just make our own. Like, what's the big deal here? So a week later, Joe and I are on my dining room table. He had already built this breadboard, circuit board. The thing's talking to Wi-Fi. It's got a sensor aimed at my wall. And I was like, okay, like we're serious. We can actually do this. And Joe's the type of guy who can, I can have this great idea and he just goes and gets it done. And so he and I partnered up, 9 years ago now to start this business. And it's just kind of the perfect match of, I can kind of run the business side of things, think strategically, sales and marketing, and Joe is like the engineer kind of behind the scenes, actually turning these ideas into a reality.
That's amazing. You guys were friends when you were kids?
We were friends. We literally go back to, third, fourth grade.
Wow, that's awesome. What a cool thing that is.
Absolutely.
That's great. How about you, David?
Yeah, as for myself, I was UConn was my alma mater, and while I was there, I was a student, and I was working for their IT department, and we were basically building all sorts of software and all sorts of different things. And in 2015, after being there for over a decade, I thought to myself, I'm like, I can calculate how much I'm going to have by the time I'm going to retire. And I felt almost like I was stuck. Like I loved the technical components. I didn't feel like I was challenged. And then I felt like I can calculate how much time I'm going to have by the time of retirement. And mind you, the challenge is, from my family's perspective, is that my family comes from a war-torn country, and so they're very conservative. So they said, well, you have a pension, you have all your benefits all taken care of. And I'm like, you have the basically Cadillac of all jobs. Why would you want to leave it? Everybody with a state job is the best. And I thought to myself, I'm like, if this is it, this is crazy. So I went against their interests and their wishes to go on this entrepreneurial journey, which is what entrepreneurs all experience, which is we're fueled by hope, but no sense of certainty. We're just trying to figure it out. And then amidst all that chaos, you go through that kind of hero's journey to try to get through that trials and tribulations. So I made the plunge in 2015 because I met up with my partner, which is a brilliant individual and I respect so much. His name is Jeffrey Ciarcia. And so we went ahead and built the Emergence brand. It took about 4 years for us to get the kind of momentum going. But now we have a team of over 60 team members. We move billions of dollars, and we're just, it's just amazing. And
it's incredible. Mm-hmm. That's so fantastic. I can remember, as a kid, so I had dreams of being an astronaut when I was little, but I always remember my mother, she would always say, we just need that one idea. we just need that one idea to become rich, right? And that was all I knew about having your own thing. And of course, we never came up with that one idea, but it was always that thing. Like, that's how people do it, right? They come up with that one idea. And it's interesting to hear, after having joined the Entrepreneurs Accelerator program and having met so many different entrepreneurs in so many different industries, how many ideas there are out there to be had, right? Like, anybody can really latch onto something and make a business out of it.
Well, and I'll just add, ideas, I used to be so protective of the idea of our business and all the things I wanted to do. I remember the first meeting when I pitched it to Joe and this other guy. I made them sign NDAs, and it was like going to be this $1 billion idea. And, once you're sort of in the trenches and you're a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years in, and you realize what a grind it is to actually build a business, you sort of realize that like anyone can have an idea, but it's the one, when I roll back the tape, I had a full-time job. I was getting up, I was working from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., going to my full-time job, getting home at 6, working till midnight, and then doing again the next day. Like, that's just what it took. And then on weekends, Joe and I were in his barn, hand assembling circuit boards and shipping product out the door on Monday morning. And it's just what it took.
Right.
And so your point of ideas, absolutely. Like, you need an idea. You need something to build the business on, but then you have to get out there and hustle and do it.
Yeah, it's not the idea, it's the execution.
Right.
Yeah, and that's something I used to say too when I was in the acting world and I was a writer, and people always think they're going to come up with this story idea that's going to be the $1 million movie, but it's really, ideas are a dime a dozen. And I guarantee you, when you have an idea for a story, there are probably 10 other people out there that have the same idea, but who's going to execute on it?
And then it's fun too. All the people who tell you once you're successful that they had the idea before you, right. And you say, "So what?"
You get that a lot.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. You executed.
Yeah.
You won that. That's awesome. So, how did you guys find the Entrepreneurs Organization? What was your path to that?
So I can start with that. Let's see. So we started the business in May of 2015 when I resigned from UConn, and then I was very secretive about the idea too. We were trying to democratize the investment process by allowing everybody to participate, because we were leveraging Obama's Jobs Act in terms of the exemptions that he was putting in, so that we can allow everybody to participate in this investing process. Long and the short is we built an equity crowdfunding site. It took about 2 years to do it. We had to get all the licenses from the SEC and FINRA and all the proper registrations. And in 2019, I am rocking in the corner because we were running out of money. And I'm like, I did a Rob's transaction, which basically meant you take what you have in your savings and your retirement, and if you were to pull it out directly, you get hit with early withdrawal penalties. Yeah. So we issued Emergence a corporation. So Dave, the investor, invest into Dave, the entrepreneur, and then the shares were then transferred from the banks to the investor, and there was no early withdrawal penalties, provided you pay it back. So mind you, I had nothing left. We went all in, and in 2019 we had nothing left, and so I didn't have guidance. I didn't have anybody to lean on. I didn't have networks. We didn't have affluence where your family or friends perhaps had. So these kind of connections, and that's kind of where I was just trying to figure stuff out. So as we were trying to throw stuff at the wall, trying to make it work, we were able to attract some of the best and brightest early on as a result of an experience that I had that was basically ethereal experience that led me to deal with a lot of the lower vibrations that I was taking on, and it opened up my mind and had a spiritual awakening that allowed me to be able to attract some players. And then we were able to kind of grow and start generating revenue. So then we were doubling down on that and starting to grow. But yeah, I still didn't have the networks. So it was trying to encourage the team to get to that $1 million mark so that we can actually get into EO. And it was pushing us to get there so that we can have audited financials and we can become part of EO. Primarily because around this time, this is 2020 with the pandemic, and we're all on house arrest. They won't let you go, anywhere, and everybody has to be 6 feet distance. So that social isolation made it even much more impactful, because I want to be around like-minded individuals that I share the same core values with, which is a growth mindset, thirst for learning. Together we grow, and trust and respect. And so these core values has resonated really deep within me. And as a result, we finally in 2021 were able to break into that threshold. So then we were able to join Entrepreneurs Organization, which has been a tremendous kind of accelerator for us because of so many factors.
So you knew about the organization, you knew you wanted to be a part of it because you want to be around like-minded individuals and have that network of influence and education. But there was no accelerator program for you to join at the time.
No, there wasn't. At the time, you had to hit the threshold of the $1 million mark, and so we didn't have an opportunity to get in there. So really had to hustle, but didn't have the resources because there are specific kind of steps that you can take to get there. And now looking back in retrospect, I could have just shortened that timeline.
And if you only knew what you know now,
yeah, and
right.
I could have saved a lot of frustration and blood, sweat, and tears. But ultimately, now we kind of provide it for future entrepreneurs, and when we have an accelerator program, which Steve Williams started, and I continue to run.
Yeah. Now, Steve, how were you introduced into EO?
So I did not know about EO at all, and even to this day, a lot of us talk about EO as sort of the best kept secret for entrepreneurs, but. For me, it was probably a similar time frame. It was around January 2021, sort of like peak COVID, working from home. And I'd gotten a phone call from one of our smart oil gauge users, just a homeowner who was sort of reconnecting his smart oil gauge to Wi-Fi and just wanted some help, and called him back. It was probably a Sunday night. And he's like, "You must be the owner. Call me on a Sunday
Somebody else
night."
is calling then.
That's right. So we got to talking, and he's asking me about the business. He's an entrepreneur himself, and he says, "Have you heard of EO?" And I said, "No, tell me about it." And he starts telling me about it. He's a super successful guy. Andy Rapkin is his name. He's had multiple huge exits, and he basically just said, "Look, so much of my success today I could directly attribute to EO." He says, "In fact, my family and I just got back from a 6-month stay at another EO member's villa in Spain." He's like, "This is just what you get with EO. We have this family, it's this community of entrepreneurs. We kind of lift each other up. We work through these challenges together, and you learn from each other." And he's like, he put me in touch with Ernie Loss, who is our past president for EO Connecticut. Ernie and I started talking, and I was all in just from day one.
Yeah.
I think at that time we were doing like $1,001 of annual revenue.
Oh, wow.
It's like we just made the cut.
Same here.
To join EO, and I just dove headfirst in, and
that's incredible.
haven't looked back.
So you had a conversation with Ernie. That's really where you decided, okay, this is for me.
Absolutely. I mean, Ernie just started asking me questions, because part of EO is like, you don't just join. Like, we don't just sort of let anybody in. You have to be aligned with the core values that David mentioned. You have to be somebody who's looking to grow their business, but also, it's not all about money. Like in EO, we talk about, you have to get the financial side right, but you also have to get the personal side right. You have to get the family side right, because if you don't have all of these three things in balance, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you might be miserable. And so Ernie did a really good job of just making sure, like, I'm going to be aligned with the program as well. And I said, absolutely.
That's fantastic. So the criteria for getting into EO itself, you want to explain that?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So the criteria to get into EO is your business has to be a qualifying business, which means that it has to have $1 million in revenue, and you have to be the founder of that organization, of that company, which basically you can't be fired from. So you have to at least have controlling interest of that organization.
Gotcha.
Yeah, founder, and or you could just be the majority owner. A lot of folks maybe buy into a business. It could be a family business that they took over, but the important distinction is, entrepreneurs have a specific set of challenges. I mean, it's a long list of challenges,
Sure.
but one of which is, like payroll, for instance. Yeah. If you're just sort of an employee at a company, you've probably never really had to deal with, oh boy, we're in a cash crunch. What are we going to do to make payroll? But if you're a business owner, if you're somebody who's in charge of that P&L, that's a different scenario.
That's true. Yeah.
So we just want to make sure that, they're true business owners, people who are dealing with similar issues that we're dealing with, so that we can kind of work through them together, and you don't have that sort of odd man out who can't relate.
Yeah, absolutely. So then how did the accelerator program come about? And I'm guessing that it's not just in Connecticut, right? Were there accelerators in other parts of the country?
Yeah, absolutely. So EO is a global organization.
Yeah.
I think there's about 18,000 EO members worldwide. And in other regions, they had this thing called the Accelerator Program. And I had heard a little bit of it, and I thought it would be fantastic to get started in Connecticut. And so the idea is, thinking about myself, we went from $0 in revenue when we started in 2016 to that $1 million mark 2020 timeframe, and just figured it out kind of along the way.
Right. Yeah.
Right. We just made it up as we went along. And I think back to kind of how I manage my business now versus how I managed it there. You'd get to like tax season and you would just have no idea if you made any money, how much money you made. It was just like as long as we were growing, I knew things were good and we'd figure it out.
Yeah.
But the idea behind the Accelerator Program is if we all had some structure, to help us get from that $250,000 mark to the $1 million mark, we would have accelerated the growth big time. And when you look at businesses overall, only about 4% of businesses ever make it to the $1 million mark. But when you join the EO Accelerator Program, I think about 17% of businesses hit that $1 million mark.
Wow, that's huge. It makes a huge difference. It's interesting because when I got involved, my first introduction to it was Sherry Shore inviting me to People Day. And I felt like I just kind of drank the Kool-Aid that day. Like everything was washing over me. I'm like, this is fantastic. I have never been to business school. I have a lot of support. I have people here at Nutmeg Advisory Group that have been super supportive, people in my upline. But to get around a number of other entrepreneurs and then to hear so many of them over the course of the time I've been there, everybody says, oh, EO's the reason I'm as successful as I was. I wish I had the Accelerator Program when I was getting started. So it is really just such an incredible program to become a part of.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said it because, with the Accelerator Program, as you can attest, you're putting an accountability group. And these are folks who are going to help you set goals for yourself, hold each other accountable. And what better way to grow your business than to have others to bounce these ideas off of and to help you get there.
Yeah, for sure. And to really kind of frame it in a way that is easy to understand. So how are you tracking your financials? What are the things you can do that actually move the needle? What are the things you need to outsource and hire for? Like those are things that I think every business that's just starting up struggles with. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to know what the right choices are. I don't know if there really is a right choice, right? You can just kind of make a choice, but if you're informed by some sort of a structure, it really helps.
Yes. And there's so many things that we deal with, whether it's hiring somebody or firing somebody. How do you have that conversation? And when I show up to my forum meeting with something that's just been dragging me, it's been keeping me up at night, I get there and I realize 7 people in this room have been through the exact same situation. And I've got 7 different perspectives of how they handled it, 5 of which went really well, 2 of which not so well. And I can walk out of there. It's like the relief you feel. You just, you know what to do.
Yeah, that's very true. It's nice to know that everybody has gone through the same challenges, no matter what industry they're in. It's funny. There's so many similar stories.
And the contrast is that the entrepreneur in and of itself is a very lonely journey. So without this, peer group, it makes it very, very, challenging to make these decisions.
Absolutely. Now, how do people get it started with the Accelerator Program? How do they find us? Where do they go?
So we would love to invite anybody who's interested. The qualifying, so as opposed to being an EO, the qualifications where you have to have $1 million in revenue, for the Accelerator Program, we're specifically seeking entrepreneurs which are making $250K in annual revenue and under $1 million mark. And our next event is Execution Day on June 12th, Thursday, June 12th. And it's from 8:30 to 4 p.m. at the Graduate in New Haven, and we have an Eventbrite link that we can kind of associate perhaps in this, so that we would love to
we
be
can
able
link to that. Definitely.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
And we're basically encouraging anybody interested to participate, so you can learn more about the program and kind of meet the cohort and meet all the members that are there, and we'll have instruction when there's going to be food and beverages available and great networking opportunities. So yeah, that would be the first step. Or you can just reach out and apply, and there's an opportunity if you go on EO Accelerator. And then there's a link that'll allow you to do an application. You can fill out the application form, and it requires credit card information, but the credit card information will not be drawn until we contact you and ensure that you're a good fit for the program. And then that'll get the process started for you so that you can be part of the queue. And we'd really encourage more people to participate because it's a game changer. We have a really high success rate that we're really excited about 38% of the participants who move with graduated the program, attended the program, graduated the program. So we're very excited about that. And we'd love to be able to help more entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's for people who really have established their business. I mean, $250,000 in annual revenue isn't nothing, right? Like that's a nice spot to be at. But it's for those people who really want to go into growth mode. They want to find a way to get past all of those obstacles and learn how to make it to that $1 million mark.
Yeah, the way I kind of perceive it is like you can make 250 with 24 hours a day and with two hands. But after a certain point, you need to hire and you need to scale these businesses, scale the business and bring on other people. And when we bring on other people, it brings other challenges. And that's where
sure.
That's sort of where the entrepreneur's kind of playbook kind of helps, and the accelerator program helps with that scaling process.
Absolutely. And so some of the things about the program that I love the most are the learning days. So we have quarterly learning days, and those days are, it's a full day, right? Like it's 8:30 to 4, and we expect that you're going to devote that day to it. I know a lot of business owners are like, I can't take a whole day, but tell us about how important it is to work on your business like that.
Yeah. The quarterly learning days, even if you've graduated the accelerator program, they are such a good use of your time to just take a step back, put your phone on do not disturb, and think about working on the business rather than in the business. And the structure of these events is we've got a people day. So we spend the whole day talking about people, making sure you got the right people in the right seats, making sure that when you're hiring folks, you've got true core values for your business, and making sure that those new hires are aligned with those core values. When you're firing somebody, making sure like this is why. Either you're not doing the job well or you're not a good fit for the company, but we have a nice template and a framework we can use to help us make these decisions. Then we look at execution. So it's getting things done. How are we using our time during the week? Are we wasting a lot of time on meetings? Are we working on the wrong things? Then there's strategy. Strategy day is one of my favorite because it's really about thinking about the future of your business. So your 1-year goals, your 3-year goals, your 10-year goals. And you leave a strategy day thinking, okay, I'm going to go back to my business. We're going to schedule our next quarterly strategy planning session, and here's how we're going to structure it. And through these accelerator days, we have a panel of EO members who will sit on the panel. They'll answer questions, and you can learn how they structure their strategy sessions. And then you take that back to your business, and you're all excited, and you put the stuff to work. And the way I look at it is even if you only take one little nugget away from that day, that is a good use of your time. It's something you can deploy at your business and you'll be better off.
I agree. Absolutely. It's one of the things I love the most about the program. And then with the accelerator program, we also do have monthly meetings with our accelerator group. So these are smaller groups. They're accountability groups. And that's the other thing too. You can set goals and you can make plans, but are you holding yourself accountable? And having that group that helps to keep you accountable and you report and show your progress has been a game changer, I know, for me and for many others.
Agreed. Like, unless if you raise capital and you have like venture capitalists breathing down your neck.
Tell us about that, Dave.
There's a sense of urgency that when you take on capital, but the sense of urgency comes with a board and comes with, or at least they may take a board seat, so then you have to be accountable to them, and so there's value in that, right? They kind of put a light a fire, presumably, and kind of gets you excited. But if you bootstrap, such as like ourselves, we bootstrap the company ourselves. We don't have accountability to anybody, and so to have people that you're held accountable to, it really kind of game changes it, because now I don't want to go back and report I didn't deliver on this promise or whatever, and so that accountability kind of encourages people to ensure that you get the most out of the company.
Yeah. And you get to help keep the others accountable. So you get to actually be the person that is sharing your experience as well, which I think sometimes we don't think about everything we've experienced or been through and how that could help other people. So it's cool to kind of, when you're sitting in those accountability groups and people are doing their experience shares, coming up with something in your life that fits. And it's like, I always think, oh, I'm not going to have anything to say. I always have something to say.
We all live this. I get to forum often. So forum is what we call it's similar to the accountability group, but it's for the EO members.
Yeah.
It's a monthly meeting, and you have your forum mates. So there's 8 of us in our forum, and I've got some very successful people, folks whose net profit is more than our annual revenue in my forum, and it's phenomenal because you go in there somewhat intimidated, but then you get to one of these we call them experience shares. So somebody's got an issue that they're working on in their life or their business, maybe their family life, and we don't give advice. It's one of the rules of EO. We do not give advice, but what we do is what's called an experience share. When I was in this situation, whether it was similar or somewhat different, this is how I handled it, whether good or bad, this is what I did. And so you as the member who, as you're listening, you could take that information and do with it what you want. But to your point, it's amazing how we all have such vast life experiences that you can actually meaningfully contribute to so many different scenarios.
Yeah, it really opens your eyes up to kind of who you are and what you've experienced in your life. It's a lot of fun.
Agreed. It's an immense amount of value, and it's same here for my forum mates. I couldn't have done it without them. Like, 'cause sometimes it's just, even if you're making the right decision, just to be validated, to know that you're making the right decision, or they can just say, hey, this is the way I kind of handled it, and it's really helps in tremendous.
Right, absolutely. So is there anything else about the EO program that you guys would like to share? Anything I haven't asked about yet?
I would just say for any entrepreneur out there who's listening, even if you're not at the $250,000 mark yet, if you're well past the $250,000, if you're well past $1 million, if you're past $100 million, we've got EO members of all sort of revenue ranges. I would highly encourage you to just come to an event. So for the Connecticut chapter, we have events pretty much once a month. We bring in speakers from all over the world, talking about things like AI. We have a speaker, Matthew Pollard, coming in April. It's all about telling the story of your business. So when you meet with clients, what's that 90-second sell look like? And we host these events. We always have great food. We have a great group together. We'll have drinks, and you just get to meet some really interesting people at these events. And as a community, we like to invite other entrepreneurs. It doesn't cost you anything to come. So come to an event. Come to an event, check it out, meet some of the entrepreneurs. There's so much more to EO, even beyond our chapter. As I mentioned before, 18,000 people across the world. Dave's going to, I think, Hawaii next week to meet with some EO people at our global leadership conference. Last year we went. Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of fun. We went to Singapore last year. We did South Africa the year before.
That's awesome.
What's so cool about EO is you land in the airport in Singapore and you can just immediately pick up a conversation with a stranger because they got an EO jacket on. And you're just instantly connected on such a personal level. You're going out to dinner together. You're going on bike tours. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great.
I wanted to further kind of extrapolate on that as well because, we were kind of talking mostly about the local chapter in Connecticut, but on a global scale, the best way to summarize what EO is it scales trust, right? So irrespective of where you are in the world, anywhere you go, you know that when you find an EO member, they all share the same core values of trust and respect, together we grow, and a growth mindset, and a thirst for learning. And the beauty is that, as Steve was alluding to, one of my forum mates, we went on a retreat to, where did we go? Oh, we went to Quebec City. And so we called the chapter up in Quebec, and then they hosted us for a dinner. And he had a nice lake house. They made fondue. We got to hang out with them, and they had a helicopter in the backyard that landed. It was just so cool, and it was instant transitive trust. Just because you're an EO member here in Connecticut, they kind of invite you to their home, and anywhere in the world, it's the same sort of experience. So that scaling of trust is just a beautiful concept, especially when you do an entrepreneurs, and if you're expanding your businesses. So once you get past that $1 million market, now you're looking to expand into new regions, you can just call up different EOers to get, anywhere in the world to get insights about that particular market. And it's just been a tremendous game changer for us on a global scale.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I'll add to that. You talk about scaling trust. One of the sort of core tenets of EO when you have a forum meeting is confidentiality is key. And so when we have these experience shares and we talk about these challenges, whether actually good or bad, we call them the 5%. So of the 100% of your life, This is the top 5%. Maybe you had your best month ever, and you can't really talk to your buddy about it because he might not be able to relate to something like that, but you can talk to your forum mates about it. Then there's the bottom 5%. Maybe it's the worst thing that's ever happened. It could be some problem in your business or your personal life, but we have this confidentiality to where like we literally, like my forum mates and I, we know how much money we have in the bank. We talk about retirement plans. We talk about debt. We talk about the things that are so taboo in day-to-day life. But once you get them out there, all of a sudden you can level up. You can reframe things. You can realize some changes you could make to your investment strategies that suddenly change your life. And it's only once you're able to have that conversation in sort of a safe space where nobody's going to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
And that's what EO offers up.
Yeah. And I think you get that right away anytime you have an experience at an EO event or one of the learning days. The openness, the confidentiality factor, the generosity. I've been a part of it for just over a year now or so. And, I have EO members who reach out to me and we have a conversation. And I had, one of our accelerator members on the podcast just a couple weeks ago with his company, Honey Plate. It's the idea that there's so many people out there working so hard to grow these businesses, but are so willing to give of themselves and give of their time to everybody else as well is really eye-opening. And it does help you to understand that there's more out there. There's more opportunity than I think a lot of people realize.
Absolutely. An EO member will always return an EO member's call.
Yeah.
Even completely anonymous from across the world. We just have that connection, and it's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best things that I've done as a business owner to get involved in. And so I'm super grateful you guys got it started. I'm super excited to be a part of it. I'm so glad that you guys are here to tell people about it. And we'll definitely start to share more on the Sounds of Health stream and on all of our socials about the events and things that people are invited to and come out. I mean, come on out, open your eyes to what's possible. And get to meet some really incredible people. So before I let you guys go, because I know you've got a ton of things to do, we always ask our guests to share one tip from their life, something that you do to either maintain or increase your health financially, emotionally, or physically. So just some practice that you do just to share with the audience that maybe they can take from.
If you need some time to think about it, I know exactly.
You go
I can
first.
see it. He knows exactly what he's going to say.
So maintaining, let me put it in perspective.
Yeah.
So the entrepreneur is faced with an incredible amount of pressure, and it's like a pressure cooker, right? And what happens is everybody needs everything, and it's right away. And so what happens is if you just go throughout the day, at least from my perspective, your cup's always full, and you don't have that ability to be able to take on anymore. And certain days, you may be overflowing. So there's a technique that I've kind of put into my atomic habits over time, which is essentially I start my day with meditation, because as your mind is coming from the delta frequency from the delta to the theta, what happens is you're still in that kind of subconscious connection, with source. And what happens is it really helps to be able to stay in that kind of mindset for a little bit, rather than rolling over and first thing grabbing your phone, and then you have all these things that come on. It's like all text messages, all these emails, and so on and so forth. I control my morning. I don't allow anything to happen, and so I get up at 4 a.m. to 5, and I meditate for an hour, and I just kind of sit there in my own thoughts, and also be able to manifest reality. So envision what happens, and how would you want your day to play out. And then what happens is you have to feel it with all your 5 senses. How is it going to touch? How is it going to smell? How is it going to feel? What's it going to sound like? And how is, with all those aspects. And then the key is to let go of that outcome. Because I always I'm like, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? I just let go as though it already happened. And then once that happens, I find that you get into a flow state. And what that flow state means is that you're essentially bending space and time. So in this third dimension, what you're doing is you have time over distance. And so if you want to get to a goal, you have to actually, subtract time to get to that distance. When you can have that distance come towards you by that manifestation process where it comes. And so what it does, the meditation, and why it's so important, is it empties your cup so it's half full. And so you can take on the challenges that come out throughout that day. But further, you can actually accelerate your success. And that was a game changer for us, because then things start coming towards you. And I get calls about, hey, I have this person that's interested in this deal, or I have this opportunity that matches exactly, and it just comes almost like in synchronicity. So that's been a game changer. And so maintaining your mental health is so important because of the challenges. And then the physical health is also combined with that. So then from after I meditate from 4 to 5, I typically go to the gym from 5 to 6, and then in that I just get the body flowing, just do some weight training, and then about 20 minutes of cardio to get the heart up, and then go in the sauna for 15 minutes to sweat out all the toxins, and then shower, get the day started. And then after the shower, when your pores open, you wash up and you clean up. Then I bought myself an ice bath, where I dunk myself in an ice bath.
That's awesome.
For about 2 minutes. I get up to 2 minutes as far as I can get, where it basically takes the breath away.
Yeah.
and then you just have to find that safe space in your mind where nothing could hurt you. And then you feel like the ice and the pins and needles coming through your skin. And then what happens is then, I put on the suit and I'm ready to go, and I start my day, around 7:30.
That's all you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you're going to have to write that out for people. I want you to program our day. When do you go to bed at night? When you're waking up?
I'm in bed by 8, and I typically only sleep by 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. You want to follow that?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to go financial.
Okay. Perfect.
And I read a book, 10 years ago or so, one of the Tony Robbins books. And he talked about this postal worker who never made more than $25,000 in his life, who retired, unbeknownst to anybody who knew him, with something like $12 or $14 million. And the takeaway was pay yourself first. And the message that I would give is to, quite simply, max out your 401k. And it's something that's, on the surface might seem hard for a lot of people to do, but the sooner you can max out your 401k, especially if you're in like your 20s or 30s,
yeah.
When you look at the power of compound interest between, let's say you start at 30 and when you retire at, say, 70, it's tens of millions of dollars if you do it right. And especially if you and a spouse can do it, it's like forced savings. It's money you don't touch. And if you do everything else wrong, but you never touch that 401k and you never take your foot off the gas, maxing it out every year, you've got a very solid retirement plan just built right out of the gate. And a lot of entrepreneurs, we tend to wrap up our net worth in our business, thinking, hey, one day we'll have this big exit. But some advice I got years ago was to plan as if the exit will never happen. And then when the exit happens, that's all gravy. That's all upside.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's even more enjoyable.
Absolutely.
Right? That's awesome. Well, both of those things are great. I'm going to need you to write yours out. Just make sure we get the details. But I thank you guys so much for joining us on Sounds of Health. This has been so much fun having you here. I thank you for taking time out of the day, letting our audience know all about EO and the Accelerator program. It's definitely something that I encourage people to become a part of. It's having an impact on my business already. So thank you both.
Thank you for having us. And I just want to say how proud we are of you to kind of see your progress since you joined the Accelerator program. It's so cool to sit here, celebrate your success, and see how well you're doing. And for everything you've done for EO, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sitting on the board and participating and helping us out. And thank you for having us today as well.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be a part of it. All right, everyone. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Sounds of Health, brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors and recorded at the office of Nutmeg Advisory Group. I'm your host, Dave MacNiven. I want to give a big thanks, as always, to our producer, Jason Carubia, and for the amazing music by Rob Hames, who did celebrate a birthday this week. So happy birthday, Rob. Every week, we bring you stories that inspire, empower, and help you upgrade your health and life. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like, share, subscribe, leave us a review. We love hearing from our community, and we hope that you will continue being an important part of it. Thank you for listening.